Okay.
Right.
Grade 11, choice 2, 30th September, 2020. End of the day lesson. New starting.
New starting.
Oh, for yeah.
No.
Okay. So this, and remember guys, you must start a graph with naught on both axes. So in that way, this is not the ideal graph because you should start with naught there. But you can't go from naught and then to 1950 because then you're going to be over here with 1950.
Ma'am, can you do those lines that you did inside?
So you cut the axis. Do you know how to cut an axis?
Yeah.
Yes. And you know you're only allowed to do it once on an axis. You can do it on this one and on that one, but you can't do it like 3 times on one axis.
It's like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, skip 50.
Yeah, so in this thing you would go, Jess, why are you doing the eyes thing?
I'm confused now.
Okay.
Cut the axis.
Okay, let's show you. So let's say, for example, here, oh, it's 1050. Okay, so because the rule in biology goes you have to start at naught. But then the next figure is 1050, and then you can't go naught, 50, 100. Because then you're going to be over there by the time you get to 1050. So what you do is you cut the axis and you go 1050, 1100, 1150, whatever. And it just shows that there's a part which is left out here. Okay, that's what it means.
Could you also go so like let's say you go from 5 to 50 or 5 to 500 on some random things. So
In that thing.
In that you say 5 or yeah you go 5 and then you skip and then you go to 500. Is that a thing? No, not there, not there. Just random. Like let's say your axis is 5 and then you.
So you're going 0, 5.
Then cut.
Absolutely. It just means that you've got a lot of stuff. But don't cut in the middle of a line.
No.
So you can't, if you've got a line that's going like this, you can't cut in the middle of it.
So if you cut the axis and that little line, you have to stop and continue from where you begin.
Yeah-ish.
Okay.
It, normally in biology, the line would start after that. So here, for example, it doesn't start at naught. Your first reading is at 1050. And so the cut needs to come before 1050. Okay, yeah.
So, Mary, if you're doing, for example.
I'm going to have a sleepless night tonight.
Why?
Because of
Because we should never have discussed issues.
It's fine, man. It's all good. So remember,
No, it's, I don't do that.
I'll speak really quickly now. So on the x-axis, for example, you have amounts of years, okay? So you
Number.
Yeah, so example, you want to start in 1970 and then end off in 2000 on that year. And can you start on your x-axis first thing 1970, 1975, 1980?
In biology, you're not meant to. By definition in biology, you're always meant to start at naught.
So can you do you have to do the line length? Is that where it
So you
applies
would cut and then you would go 1970.
to? So it applies for like years and that, okay? And
It applies for everything.
growth or percentage of
And in fact,
shades.
in a drawing, if you've got an earthworm that's got 150 segments that are identical, you don't have to draw all 150 segments. You can go like that, or you can go like that. And it means there's a part missing there that is similar to this and to this. Okay. Right, going. Can we go? May we go? Yay. Moving on. Okay. So look at the population of the world. It was low, 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 low. Remember that this is in billions. Don't get it wrong. If they ask you to give a reading from here, then make sure that you put billions or else you're going to lose marks. Okay, low, 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 low. Until about 1700s, it started going up, and the rate of increase increased. So what kind of graph is this? How many you've all done this? You told me you'd learned the whole thing. Whatever it is. Okay. Right. Remember, J-shaped is not the name of the curve.
Ma'am, where's this graph from?
It's the shape. It's a fake one.
It's from this place.
I can't see that.
So, I'm pretty sure man can't see me. 14,000. You think people measure out before they were 14,000? Like realistically thinking.
What are you worrying
We have a
about?
little
No,
debate.
don't worry, I think it's
Conversation
another
about
debate.
this.
Don't worry, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, right, everybody happy with this one? Okay, so do the principles of population dynamics apply to human populations? Remember, we've spoken about carrying capacity, which is abbreviated as?
Okay.
Okay, capital K.
Okay, all right. So famine and malnutrition in some parts of the world indicate that the human population of those areas may have reached the carrying capacity in those areas. The problem with humans is that we are able to change the environment to enable our population to continue to increase. So the fact that we've got medicines, the fact that we are we're able to, in farming areas, put down fertilizer and get better crop yields.
We're able to build houses.
We're able to build houses, high-rise things like that. So that means we're able to make dams, we're able to collect water where we need the water. And so this is the reason why we, although we should long ago have reached the Earth's carrying capacity, we haven't.
Then aren't we going over carrying capacity at the moment? We probably
Well,
are.
Yes and no.
We've reached like maximum. Like the world isn't on fire yet.
Yes,
But
so
it's still overloaded. There's no true carrying capacity because we change it.
because we keep on raising carrying capacity by what we're able to do.
So we can keep building, like,
Yeah.
and then going up, and then
Put your mask over your nose. It may be that the human growth curve will never enter the equilibrium phase, in other words, the carrying capacity thing. But it is possible that environmental degradation, because we're messing with the environment, it may lower the carrying capacity. And it's possible that our population size will decrease drastically at some stage.
how would that have a disease arise?
Yeah, or just
Natural disasters.
that crop failures, droughts and things like that. So the fact that we've messed so badly with the climate does mean that there are areas which are going through drought, which we, yeah.
Also pollution.
Although South Africa has a natural cycle with droughts. But the fact that the Vaal Dam is, I believe, lower than it's been in recorded history is quite worrying. Yeah.
There was also said that apparently in this generation, the people in Europe are only having like 1 to 2 kids, so our population is actually coming to almost a standstill because it's slowing down.
In certain countries.
In certain
So we'll talk about that. Because that's also problematic.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
pollution also play a role in that.
Yeah.
Everything about that.
Okay, Tony, go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, there's a town when you drive up from Durban, it's quite a small town, but there's this big meter, and it tells you how much water is actually left in the town for all these people, like what percentage you have. And I think there was like, it went up like, it was like those things that goes red, yellow, green, and it literally used to about like 0%. People carrying around jugs of water as we passed through it. It was ridiculous. It was crazy.
Okay, all right. So conversely, technology may improve and carrying capacity might increase. Who knows? So we may overshoot carrying capacity and go down, but who knows?
I hope we go
Okay.
down.
So a population that is higher than carrying capacity will damage the habitat. That's what you learned about in the previous section. If it goes above carrying capacity, it actually damages. Oh, it's messed.
Now, my dad and I were saying, like, I feel he was saying that the earth will always bounce back. But the thing is, we won't. Like, if something, like, a huge disaster happened, if everyone got wiped out, we wouldn't bounce back, but the earth would. Like, they would grow and whatnot, you know?
Okay. So the need to produce food in overpopulated areas has led to soil erosion and a reduced carrying capacity. So, for example, and you are too young to remember this, always along the banks of a river, trees will grow. And the important thing about trees is that they have roots that bind the soil. And what happened down in KZN was that the sugarcane farmers got greedy, and although the laws were you're not allowed to plant sugarcane within X number of meters of a river bank, they just planted. They chopped down all the trees and they planted right to the edge of the river. And then whenever there's serious floods and things like that, like Cyclone Des Moines in 1980, I think 7 maybe a little bit after that, where there was heavy rains, lots and lots of floods. Some of those huge bridges, the John Ross Bridge down in KZN, which is an enormous bridge going over one of those rivers along the coastal road, was actually washed away completely. And the reason why is because those trees which held the banks of the rivers had been chopped down, and there was nothing stabilizing the banks of the river. So there was nothing holding the water back or holding the water in the soil. Those floods just washed the whole bridge away. It was very bad disasters. Okay, obviously the need for more land and resources has led to war between neighboring populations. Now, currently, the United Nations projects 3 different possible things that are going to happen to human populations from here on. We might end up with a high population growth, that the rate of growth stays like that, or a medium population growth, and then as soon as the population growth is medium, in fact, the numbers decrease, because not everybody has children. Okay. Yeah. Or a low population growth. Okay. But that we still remain to see. So what are the reasons for exponential human?
I'm saying that's scary.
Say again?
It's scary.
We
Yeah.
could reach 60 billion.
I'm just eternally grateful that I'm old. No, I am. Because I'm going to die before the shit hits the fan with your kids.
Or like then we're gonna invent these like freezing test tubes and we'll shove you in one of those and wake you up 1,000 years later, man. Be like, we're like,
Yeah, there's Tony leaning over me. Fuck you.
With like a whole bunch of little
All
turkeys.
those tests that you said.
Tony has finally taken over.
No, I'm dead serious. I'm over this. Okay. So reduced environmental resistance leads to increased carrying capacity of the world's food producing areas. So you've got to see all the links that occur here. So people plant crops, and there's a certain limit to the yield of the crops. But then what they do is they introduce technology. They now have those big spray things that water the crops. So they're not just relying on rain. And they put fertilizer on the soil. And the soil becomes more fertile for a short period of time. And so all of a sudden there's increased crop yields. And then with genetic modification of crops also, crops are growing in areas where they couldn't naturally grow before, or they're producing greater yield than they did before. Okay, so that's that. So increased food production, advances in modern medicine, for example, vaccinations, means that people who would have died haven't. Okay, which I'm okay with. Okay, so once upon a time we reproduced to shun extinction. Now we must stop reproducing for the same reason. Okay, you may well get a cartoon in an essay. Okay, so one of the sources, one of the sources in an essay might be a cartoon. Don't freak about it. Oh, but generally speaking, there's not something. Yeah, this one is a bit deep.
So now when you mean like in an essay, do you just mean like an extract? Like it's
As one of the sources, you know how
so like before in an English test, man, usually have like a picture like that, and then you will have the writing underneath, and you just answer questions on it. You can refer to it if needed.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so here we go. So if you look at this, this is the old Stone Age, then the new Stone Age, then the Bronze Age, blah, blah, Middle Ages. What happened here
King Arthur.
that allowed the population to increase within a very short period of time, right up to 7.5 billion that we are now? Emily?
Could it also be technology and advances in medicine and ways of living?
Isn't it the Industrial Revolution?
So this started with the Industrial Revolution. Okay. And then obviously the more technology improves, etc., the more the population can grow. Okay, anyway, I think we've seen that. Okay, so this was when I prepped this particular section on the 30th of March. Here was the South African population. 59, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say this is a figure. So that many people.
59,100,000.
What?
Did you do core math, man? In school?
Yeah, but I don't do figures.
Oh, it's
No, hold on. When I was at school, there was only core maths.
I had to sit through algebra. Like I can't read numbers, but I can do tiny algebra.
No. Okay. All right. So there and then, but what's quite interesting, and remember, and this is important, you can have a population that is still increasing, but the rate of growth is not as high as it was. So this is population growth rate. And the fact is that it went through a significant dip there, where the rate was decreasing, and now the rate is decreasing again. It doesn't mean the population is decreasing. Remember that that part on a graph would be there. The rate of increase is decreasing. Okay, you happy with that? So it doesn't mean the population is decreasing. The population is still increasing. M.
Is this, was the population growth higher then because many people were having children?
Yes.
And younger
So
ages?
in fact, yeah. We'll get to a thing just now which says the greatest rate of producing children was in about the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. And ever since then, the rate has dropped.
Why? Because kids are...
Because in the 1950s and 1960s, women never worked.
So all
Did it work?
their purpose was to...
No, the majority of women stayed at home and looked after the kids and whatever. And because, I don't know, there's this whole thing about how many kids should you have. So one of the things is if the kids stand a good chance of dying, then one would have more kids just in case. Okay. Because if you only have one child and that child dies, then what? So, yeah, people had huge families. My father was one of 8 children. My mother was one of 7 children.
My dad was one of 6 and my dad's either one of 14.
Yeah, my opa is one of 8.
So, yeah, a large number of kids. Yeah. Shh, guys, listen.
Could also one of the factors be that as society went along, it was seen as more taboo to have children at younger ages because back then a lot of people had children at very, very young ages.
Yes, absolutely. But also the fact when women went out to work, when women were allowed, and it sounds as if there were laws against it, but
There were challenges.
there were challenges, and women who went out to work were often looked down upon.
Oh.
Because a woman's role was to be at home looking after the kids. When women got a higher education and went out to work,
Still looked
they postponed having their children young. So a really good example of this is, I can't remember, I think it's Brazil. It's either Brazil or Argentina, where the population growth rate was absolutely huge. No. It was either Argentina or Brazil. Brazil. And they made a decision to change the soapies on TV. So they completely changed how the soapies went. That the women within the soapies were no longer these mothers who stayed at home, good Catholic people who looked after the family and whatever. They were career women.
That's smart.
And the population dropped, plummeted. Population growth plummeted after that, because they were saying that women could be successful and have a career outside of the home. So it's a hugely complicated issue, this thing. Okay, there we go.
Wait, ma'am, I will
Can I give you homework?
I'm not too sure.
Ma'am, can I quickly, I think it's better back
Fair.
So now would we draw the two lines?
Online.
Yes. You would make 0, 0 and go, okay. Okay, right, go.
Go home because it's like 4 minutes.
And that's not what I meant when I said go. Simply, if you don't get here on time, your job's going to
End
be searched.
of choice 2 lesson, 30th September, grade 11. The right video, ma'am. This is the correct video. 30th of September, choice 2, the one with Tony. The amazing class. Okay.
But simply, listen carefully to me.